Hey, here we are. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Nomad is here, and we are going for it, man. We're gonna do some Star Citizen. I am updating. It has gone live. It is live. It is live. 3.14, 3.14 is live. So it's updating, but until we update, I'm gonna show you off a friend of mine work at the same place. She does sketching. She's live right now. Let me just we'll just pop in on her real quick. Show her off.
I think it was some paper towel or something. All right.
She is sketch this, and she is a good artist. She does some great digital art, and I'm just gonna show her off for a few moments and let you guys see. So here, let me copy and
Video art, yeah. That's all right.
yeah, it's hesitating like that because Star Citizen is doing stuff in the background.
Yeah. No. It's a lot of work.
Let's see. I want to.
It's fun. At the very least, it's a fun pastime.
Here we go. Wait.
And opinions are good.
There we go.
On art to have.
There we go. There she is. Sketch this.
Down once we get to a
Yeah, there she is. Sketch this. Okay. Okay, I gotta come out of there because I guess I could have just muted that tab, but hey. So check her out. She's really awesome digital artist, and she's really cool. Her and her husband at this moment, is playing Star Citizen. He's a big Star Citizen fan, and he's in it. I'm waiting for mine to update and get in it, but we'll probably go ahead and watch the Star Citizen live and maybe some other content. But let's go ahead and get that started.
To add this is to help add a little more.
So I'm gonna shut her down right now, but make sure you go and check her out. Sketch this, and she's really good.
Socks that you have to wonder if you're balancing your time correctly.
Okay, and I still have her over there on the TV, so I can keep watching. I was kind of behind the PC here, but I'm watching her over there. I casted her to my TV over here, and I think what we're gonna do. Let's watch these. There's a couple of little quick commercials here about discovering Orison and welcome to Orison. So let's go ahead and check these out and see what they're like.
Welcome to Orison,
Whoa.
the Empire's only orbital in-atmosphere vehicle production line. Stanton II's first orbital platforms were built by the UEE Navy in 2855 and considered by many to be an engineering marvel of the time. Used to repair capital ships, Providence platform played an important role in keeping our brave starmen flying and helping the universe stay safe. Crusader Industries adopted Stanton II as its new home in 2865. Soon after,
Let's go back a little bit.
used to repair capital ships, Providence platform played an important role in keeping our brave starmen flying and helping the universe stay safe. Crusader Industries adopted Stanton II as its new home in 2865. Soon after, Providence platform was converted into one of the most advanced shipyards ever in operation. Combining the benefits of low-gravity construction with the ease of atmospheric manufacturing, Crusader Industries can produce larger spacecraft faster and safer. Notice how our unique platforms allow the framework of the Hercules Starlifter to be reinforced without the strain of full gravity using a bonding technique only possible in breathable atmosphere. And in preparation for the next generation of starships, Crusader engineers are already hard at work developing new innovative manufacturing techniques. When it comes to the future of spaceflight, at Providence Platform, the sky's the limit. But what about beyond the shipyards?
Oh.
Since its founding, Orison has continued to grow and change into much more than industrial platforms. Today, it's known as an unforgettable destination where employees and visitors alike can gather among.
Sorry, I forgot I had my speakers on, so the microphone was picking it up twice. Sorry about that.
The clouds to relax and unwind. At the heart of this new Orison is Cloudview Center, where luxurious gardens feature breathtaking vistas, renowned art installations, and first-class shops and entertainment. With all this, it's easy to see why millions of people consider Crusader a journey worth making. All made possible thanks to the most important part of Crusader Industries, our incredible family of workers. Enjoy your visit.
Check it out. Right, let's check out the other one. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here it is. Oh, okay, that was this one. Okay, let's do it proper. As you can see, it's Star Citizen's updating. I don't even know if we're gonna end up playing tonight. I may end up just watching Star Citizen live with you guys. Shotkey, welcome to the stream, man. Thanks for dropping by. I got a lot of stuff going on today. We're watching some of the CIG stuff. We're gonna watch Star Citizen live. We might end up getting into the game a little bit to see how I feel. And I got another friend of mine back there. She's on stream. She's a digital artist, and she started streaming recently herself. And so I kind of got her over in the background. But if you could look at her name is Sketch Dis. And she's really awesome, so check her out. She has nothing to do, but also her husband is a big Star Citizen fan. He's actually playing the live. He's playing live right now, and she's doing her sketching. So it's really cool. Got a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, check her out. When you have time, to go artist. She's doing like a molten dragon. I know you can't really see it because the PC's in the way. But she's doing like a molten dragon. And it's really cool. Here, let me show her off again because she's really cool. Her and I work together, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Let me go ahead and show her off a little bit.
Off the top of him because that's not where the brightness is. The brightness is down here. And so to give his back a little bit more brightness, what are we gonna do?
See, that's because I got Star Citizen updating in the background, so it's trying to do a lot right now.
Sorry for the scrolly. Ooh, no, not that.
Sorry about that. But see, check her out, man. She's awesome. It's funny because she works in our accounting department. I had no idea she was this artistic. And I just stumbled on it. One day I was streaming, and she chimed in on my stream, and then all of a sudden it was like, wait, and so I went to her stream. I was like, wow, she looks familiar, and, and I was like, is that who I think it is? And it's like, sure enough, she was like, yeah, I just spoke to you earlier today at work, and I was like, oh my god. So yeah, she's really cool. So check her out. Come on. Star Citizen interrupting.
More brightness.
Yeah, man, she's awesome. Check her out. So we're gonna go back to my thing, and I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch the feature team. Wait a minute. Oh, what's this? Oh, we got another thing here. Here, just check this out.
They say that some things just don't go out of style. That the true classics never die. Touring, exploration, combat, and now introducing long-haul freight. The all-new Roberts Space Industries Constellation Taurus still does it all.
Wow, good stuff. Oh wow, cool, man. Oh, she said she took an animation class in high school. All right, so let's do Star Citizen Live, shall we? We're gonna do it. I'm not even sure. I got everything set up to play Star Citizen. Just about finished updating, but I really want to like kind of do this. But I think by the time we get through this, there it is. It's done. Look at that. But we're gonna check this out, and then either I will go ahead and play a little bit, or I'll just call it a night. But let's check it out. All right? You good? You good with that? I'm good with that. Let's do it. Star Citizen Live, baby.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Star Citizen Live, the USPU feature team. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee, and joining us on the show this week are three members of our esteemed USPU feature team. We've got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump right into it with some quick introductions because every show is somebody's first show. We're going to start immediately to my right here. Chad, who are you? What do you do for Star Citizen?
Yeah, hi, my name is Chad McKinney, and I'm a lead gameplay engineer on the USPU gameplay team.
And what's an engineer do?
We make the features in the engine that, in coordination with design. So we actually, make the fun stuff is the way I like to put it.
Okay. Ben, no stranger to Inside Star Citizen, but who are you for Star Citizen Live?
Hi, I'm Ben Dorsey. I am a senior systems designer on USPU, which means that I do a lot of the planning and coordination and then some of the implementation for a few various things. In this case, features like reputation and then content like Ninetales or Jumptown too.
Mm-hmm. And classic calling all devs rock star, Rob Reiniger. Who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
My name is Rob Reiniger. I have actually recently been promoted to the assistant director of the Systemic Gameplay Services pillar. So it's classically working with the USPU team here as product owner of several of the features that we've done, getting to work more with our SST team and the MFT team here in the future. So I'll be getting quite involved with the simulation here moving forward.
And once again, congratulations on your Sharks themed office paint job.
It was nice. I saw it the other day. It was cool. Still there.
Yeah, it's waiting for you when you return to office. All right, so on today's show, we are talking U.S. features. So what does that mean? Every team in Star Citizen works on a finite number of features. Not every team works on every feature in the game. We also are on our road to Digital CitizenCon, so there are lots of topics and subjects being held close to our chest right now in preparation for the various panels and presentations that are coming on October 9th. So we do have a focus of stuff that this team is working on that we're approved to talk about today, and saving other stuff for CitizenCon. We put up a thread up in Spectrum where we collected questions throughout the week and let people vote up on the ones they wanted to see answered most. And one of the biggest topics that was voted up was cargo refactor. So we're going to start with some questions on the cargo refactor first. Right off the bat, why don't we just set the stage here? What is the cargo refactor and what isn't the cargo refactor?
Sure.
What are we actually trying to do here? What are we talking about when we say cargo refactor?
Cargo can be refactored in many ways to help make the game play better. We've obviously got the cargo profession that we're working towards, but specifically the way cargo worked. So in the past here, up till we finished this, when you bought something from a shop, it got statically placed into your ship's cargo hold and you could not interact with it. When the ship exploded, we kind of jettisoned out, smaller versions of the boxes that you could actually grab and take back to your ship, which could then be sold at a shop somewhere. But this refactor is going to give us a kind of a clean slate as far as how we define what our commodities are. There was some stuff that was just legacy that caused problems that we wanted to fix. But the big thing for the players is that it's going to be physicalizing the cargo within the cargo grid. It also sets us up for some other stuff that we're going to talk about in a bit, persistent hangers and just the cargo gameplay as a whole. But from the player's perspective, it's the physicalization of the cargo. You can now tractor beam stuff off the grid. You can also tractor beam stuff onto the grid. You're also going to be able to jettison larger size boxes, right? So it's not just going to be the small ones anymore. We can start doing the bigger ones. So as far as what I would expect to see in the first iteration of it would be generally that.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, one thing that I would say is I think hopefully everyone's noticing that there's all this effort now with loot and inventory that's been coming out. Cargo is being refactored, just kind of reimagined in this new world where we have localized inventory. What that means is that there are going to be commodities in certain kinds of containers that have various compositional contents for the various commodities that you'll want to trade, but there'll also be things that are inventory containers as well that can contain actual items, and they can nest. So inventory containers themselves are entities. So this can mean that you can be potentially trading and shipping in your cargo grid inventory as well as commodities, which means that looting is going to be available for the contents inside of the cargo grids as well. And the contents, as you move them around, the localization of them is going to become much more important to the future, unlike right now.
All right. So as far as diving into some of the questions that we're seeing from both the live chat and the Spectrum thread here, right off the bat, will we be able to take other people's cargo, both forcibly and or with permission? I'm glad they allowed for both options, as well as the saddlebags on the Prospector or the Mole. So there's a couple questions in there. So let's do the first one. Will we be able to take cargo from other people forcibly or with permission?
That, as long as you can access it, whether it be through their cargo grid, getting into their ship somehow. If you can disable the ship without blowing it up, right, and can get in, sneak onto their ship, you can maybe get off with some valuable packages. So yeah, and I guess one of the things that we kind of missed talking about the refactor here is that the way that the Prospector bags, for instance, were set up was that they were all kind of part of the ship, right? It's just an animated pod, but this will set us up to allow us to detach those for other people to come and pick them up, taking them to refineries so that the mining ship can keep going. So it is kind of like a all-inclusive, it's just an item like any other item at this point, right? And whether it's attached to the outside of a ship or placed inside of a ship, it's kind of all that.
Okay.
It's kind of cool.
And for clarity, when that first started even getting discussed within the team, within the first 5 seconds, people were talking about like how cool it would be to run a heist and break into someone's ship and take their stuff, or force them to give you stuff because you've threatened to blow them up if they don't. Like that is 100%.
Yeah, and on the technical side, if I could just like kind of clarify a little bit. Previously, cargo instead of cargo grids were really just some data and some persistent representation, and we're changing it to be represented as entities. And for anyone that's not familiar with game dev terminology, an entity is this really generic term for just something that like a player might see in the game. So what that means is that the cargo boxes, the those prospector whatever bag things, these things are going to be things that we have a lot
Shaki, so how you doing, man? What have you been up to? Are you playing Star Citizen?
Interact with them individually.
So you have a good week?
Gives us a lot of leeway to open up new gameplay opportunities, like actually stealing the sacks and then putting them onto your ship or putting them inside another ship, or just getting creative and other players do very interesting things. But yeah, so just largely a big part of this is just making them actually interactable objects in the world individually, as opposed to these like static fixed things.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely seems like it's ripe for future progress on things like piracy and stuff like that, because now these things will be, because they're physicalized in the world now they can survive explosions and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah, and could be damaged, right? So we want to be able to damage a container that might devalue what's in it, or it opens the door for a lot of the things that we've said we wanted to do with cargo over the last couple of years, and sets us up for being able to put a volatility system on it, or it's like, yeah, cool, it reacts to this other thing just because it's near it, right? Like because it's physically degradation, but because it's physically an item, we can start to calculate those things independently of each other, which is really nice.
And
as I was hiding this guy,
asking about when, keep an eye on the public roadmap. All when questions are answered by the public roadmap. As best as we're able to anyway.
Drink myself down.
In regard to the cargo refactor, will there be any Lego style or snap to option? Snap to option to get boxes stacked nice and tiny, manually placed in the corner. Tractor beam or anything else.
So that was one of the things when we were starting to talk about what this refactor means. This is a bigger feature that spans more than just the USPU team, and much like we're working with the actor feature team on the personal inventory and the asset manager to kind of help go with that, this is something that we're going to need to work with them on, because that's a personal player experience thing that it's the mining tool or the tractor beam or the paw tool, right? So we will provide the hooks in order for them to be able to do that. We said snapping is almost a mandatory thing that we need, right? So when they're ready, it should have all the hooks they need to kind of just snap it in. And I think the first thing I would expect to see would probably be tractor beam interaction on that level, and then the physical placement it probably need a little extra work just from the actor movement and animation side of things, but certainly would be able to use the same data to do the snapping.
Yeah, technically we're implementing it, expecting that coming, and it's a planned part. The first release of cargo may not include direct interaction and Lego style snapping, but the functionality under the hood from the cargo system will support it.
Okay. Now, folks who have been who've been paying attention to social media today have noticed that the Star Citizen account announced that 314 is expected to go live later today. Talking about 314, one of the
live new, people, it is live.
Highlight features of that is our Ninetales Lockdown dynamic event that we've talked in the past, Ben. We have a couple questions about Ninetales Lockdown. Does this event trigger from in-game actions, or is it like Xenothreat where it's scheduled and started by the developers?
It is started by developers. It's not even automatically scheduled. That's actually another step that we want to take, is allowing it to be put on basically like a calendar and put like a date and time on it. That was supposed to be the next step, but frankly, all that Tony has been able to talk about for the past few weeks is actually wanting to make it so it's triggered by things in game potentially. So that schedule might get a little bit flipped up. but it is definitely
I forgot to
intended
get
that eventually some form of in-game actions will cause
Big deal.
this to happen. Be
Random
that
thought.
increasing the piracy level in an area to the point where Ninetales thinks that they have a shot, or even just doing missions for them to the point where they get enough resources as an organization to kind of build up the fleet that they need to do these kinds of things. And that's for all world events in the future. That is the plan, that eventually these are all kind of driven by that simulation of what's going on and player actions.
Gotcha. And if you want to know even more about Ninetales Lockdown, check out the segment we did on Inside Star Citizen towards the end of last quarter. It's available on YouTube now. One more Ninetales question before we move on, though. When Ninetales locks down a station or a landing zone, will players still passively spawn there when joining the PU, or does that affect your login locations?
If it is where you were set, then you stay there. Yes, I do not do anything to affect you there whatsoever. That's not to say that we never will, particularly if in some distant future there's a time when they actually take over that station. That might have some ramifications to people there that aren't friendly with Ninetales. But for now, no, you will log back in right on that station.
So there's an opportunity for some juicy game starts. Just log in casually, have a fun Persistent Universe experience, and you're in the middle of a giant PvP
Which
event.
Has some knock-on fun potential gameplay of like, I need to hire someone to come in with some big guns and rescue me, and that sounds awesome in some ways, or terrifying. So
Next week's ISC actually is all about that merging of PvE and PvP that we shoot for in the Persistent Universe. So check that out next week. Okay, Chad, one of the subjects that we posted about on Spectrum that's like garnered a lot of like perked ears and like, what is this? Procedural character generation. So let's start with the basics. What is it and what isn't it?
Yeah, what is going on here? So this is part of, I would say, a much larger initiative of Tony's. So if you've been paying attention, you'll see all these big ideas being thrown about like dynamic populations, and virtual AI, missions, and all this stuff. And at a certain point, you have to ask the question of, how are these things being populated? Where does the content come from? And then whenever you start thinking about that, you also start to wonder about, okay, well, what about the locations in the game? What about just the universe that we're trying to build, the number of solar systems we're intending to make? And quickly we run up on a problem, which is that we really just cannot reasonably hand author all of the characters in the game to get the scale that we're looking for and get the dynamism that we're looking for and to get the kind of I would say kind of persistence that we're looking for and the reaction to the character, the players in the game. So procedural character generation is one tool to address this problem. And the idea is essentially that instead of hand authoring the vast majority of the characters in the game, which takes a lot of time, right? There's a lot of very manual markup that's very bespoke. For example, people may not be aware, but like if you just take like a random engineer in the game, right? There would be like 100 variants of this that hand-authored loadouts have been created for them in order to add the kind of variety in the game that you hope to see. And even still, right, people notice the repetition, right? You'll see the same characters. And the thing is, you want a certain amount of that. You want a certain amount of seeing the same characters in similar scenarios. But at a certain point, there's a kind of uncanny valley where it's like, okay, that person was just walking over there and I was with them over here, right? So the idea is that by using a process that's a kind of seeded randomness that is designer guided, that's rules driven, we can kind of work from, how would I describe it? I would say you can kind of work from like what the world that we want to build is backwards to a set of rules that allow us to generate characters to fill out that world in a way that is a combination of varied and makes sense. So this is the tricky bit. For any kind of procedural system, you're going to have challenges where if you don't have enough kind of semantics built into the system, you're going to have just incredibly varied results. They're going to be quite heterogeneous. And what it's going to mean is that it's just going to seem like random. It's going to seem like there's no sense to it. You get variety, but it doesn't seem like there's any sensibility that ties it together. Once you start constraining that with any set of rules, then what you end up as a problem is the opposite. You end up with something quite homogenous. You know, you go look at, for example, No Man's Sky and all the planets, right? They're using a procedural system to generate, you know, their 18 quintillion planets or something, which is very cool. But at a certain point, you see enough planets, there's a sameness to it, and that's going to be true of any procedural system. So the trick is how do you balance it to get the variety that you want, but still sculpt it to have the kind of threads that are taken through the characters. And so what my work is to build a system in collaboration with design, in collaboration with character art, narrative, all of that, to figure out the world that we're trying to build and see how we can encode that into the data for gameplay and environmental reasons, and then draw upon that in order to generate characters at runtime that make sense in situations. And then the cool part is that these are going to be persistent characters, so you'll be able to see them again potentially on the situation or on the locations. So, you know, everything from shopkeepers to security engineers will go through this process. So it's kind of just a high level ramble.
All right, so that sounds like what, 1-2 sprints worth of work?
Yeah, we're thinking about that. It's totally not going to be that. But
no, this is a big.
This is huge, right? And the cool thing about this, though, is that it really has kind of caused us to all come together as the different groups within the company to agree and you know, formulate a cohesive vision for exactly how all of these things tie together. Because a lot of times what happens is we go and we build our thing and works really well, looks really good, and sometimes doesn't tie here. But this is going to be, you know, tied to objective values of the items, or how does a military guy know what he wants to use? Well, he uses, you know, things that shoot fast or high magazine capacities, and we can start to build out a list of stuff that makes sense for those characters, and then diversify them based on, you know, how much they care about those things. And it's from a character perspective, it's really cool because we were going, yeah, we want engineers, we want, you know, tourists and whatever, but now we can actually start thinking about, like, where did they come from? They actually had a home planet, and that home planet, well, their DNA is mixed generally in these ways. So now you can get people that look like culturally like they came from someplace, wearing clothes and styles from those locations, and they can even behave, you know, prefer items of, you know, whatever type. But that's the type of thing that we're going to be able to build as a result of this. And, you know, I don't know how much the public knows about how many character entities we have in the game, but we've literally got like Area 18 civilian 1 through 187 bench shake and save casinos. Like, it is ridiculous. And this will allow us to go, we have a civilian, and the location that he gets spawned drives some of these choices. The core archetype distinction that some designers set up is another bulk of those choices. What organization may be another layer of choices, right? So, but it's a logical, building up of this character that we no longer have to really like stay on top of so much that, why is this guy here? Somebody just copy and pasted him. Like, no. The system knows where he needs to go. They know it's cold on the planet, so he's going to be wearing something that's warm, right? We can start to build all of this stuff together as a single experience, which is why I kind of threw my hands up in the beginning. I was like, yes, this is the dynamic game and the beginning of the dynamism that we have talked about for a very long time. So it's super exciting.
Well, for those playing Star Citizen drinking game at home, that was 1 bespoke, 1 systemic, and 2 dynamics. So 4 shots, everybody. All right. Persistent hangers. Persistent hangers. We hear this term, and of course, the very first module that was ever released in Star Citizen's development was our personal hanger system. So there's a lot of, when we hear the term persistent hangers, there's a lot of misconceptions that immediately arise, going back, linking one to the other. So right off the bat, our first question is, what is the difference between persistent hangers and the personal hangers that citizens are familiar with?
The idea was, at least to my knowledge, was that these personal hangars were actually meant to be some place that was in the game. You know, asteroid hangars were supposed to be on some place like Grimhex or wherever. The Rebel in New York was supposed to be a Microtech hangar, right? So I would not necessarily look at them as different places, but what we're going to provide is a place that you can customize. You can leave stuff and on the floor, and when you come back, it'll be there. It is your place, kind of like the halves, where you can kind of go and dump stuff in your halves, but on a much larger scale. These will be things that you can buy. They'll be yours. You can rent them, maybe, things of that nature, right? It'll allow players to manage larger scales of cargo, things like that. You know, stored, like, hangars are pretty big, right? So you can line some cargo up down one side and then spawn a different ship and then put it on that one. So it's, in a nutshell, it's taking that personal hangar and really just kind of transplanting that into the game and allowing the game to persist it in whatever state you leave it.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just add, I would say that persistent hangars are kind of a superset of hangars where they include the personal hangars, which are now persistent, but also will include other hangars that you could potentially interact with for other reasons. Because we're now going to make them something that you own, that means that there's going to be some locality tied to them. And there are going to be situations in the game where you may not have access to a hangar that you actually own at a given location. And there are going to be a set of processes in place that still allow you to facilitate certain gameplay loops. So that might mean maybe renting a hangar or having a temporary hangar for a certain transaction. It even opens the door, you know, potentially for things like hangars associated with characters or missions and things like that. But yeah, Rob's, you know, exactly right. That effectively what we're doing is, you know, I mentioned before that cargo was being turned into entities, and then that allows us to have a certain amount of persistent gameplay associated with them. Same thing's true with the hangars. We're gonna now have the ability to simulate them as entities, very similar to ships, actually. So, you know, right now in the game, you can already like drop things in your ship, put ships inside of ships and store and restore them, and et cetera, et cetera. Hangars are going to start acting a lot more like that. And players are going to hopefully, you know, start thinking of them as something that's like an important part of their kind of fleet, their gameplay set.
Right. So the player hangars that people are familiar with, the Rebel in New York and stuff like that, those are under the greater umbrella of persistent hangars. But when they see the first version of persistent hangars show up on the road,
Gotta pause for a second. I got a phone call coming. I gotta take this. Hello, Ramona.
Gonna get your voice now.
I almost did. I'm actually in the middle of some stuff. Hold on just a moment, chat. I'll be right back. I gotta take a call from a very important person. Be right back. Okay, we're back, chat. We're back. Lots of stuff going on here, and I apologize.
Eventually make its way into the game. It is
Keep
not
going.
that right away. It is working with the hangars that are there in game today. You know, the Area 18 ones and the Lorville ones, and creating persistent storage. And
Yeah, so imagine you're going to choose your starting location of Area 18, and then the ships that you have at Area 18, you'll have a hangar there that comes with your starting, location selection, right? And that's now your hangar. Instead of hangar 27, it's Rob's hangar, Rob's medium hangar, or whatever. And just like any other hab or persistent location, you can go there. Now, the only thing that like, we're not going to build like one hangar entrance for every single player that's actually on the server, right? Or in the game as a whole. It's going to be controlled through ATC. So you're going to contact ATC, say, hey, I'm ready to go. And Chad can talk maybe about more of the technical side of this, of how we're going to be bouncing, players around. But basically, we're going to take you, we're going to move you while you're doing your stuff inside your hangar. And then, hey, I'm ready to go. ATC gives you clearance. That opens up a door, doors open, you fly out directly into the city, and it's all from your persistent hangar space.
Yeah, so I'll just go a little bit into detail on that. So the idea is that no matter what, for now, we're going to have the locations that don't have the number of hangars to support even the current player limit, let alone whatever we increase that to with server meshing, right? So for that reason, we're always going to have this problem of too many players mapped to too few hangars. However, we do want to maintain the kind of player experience of feeling like you do own a hangar at a certain location for even these ones where they're too few. And so for that reason, we're actually going to pin the players to particular hangar entrances so that in your experience as a player, you'll go land somewhere, you'll fly away from somewhere, and it's always from the same hangar.
My Chromecast does that.
Now, there is, the players may notice that there's going to be a kind of, magical sensibility to it, which because if we have 100 players in the server or whatever, or even the current 50, then, the same players will be using the same hangar entrance and exits. How is that possible? And the reason is because there's magic happening behind a hood where we're magically moving these things around, and we're using zones to isolate them from each other. So that you don't see the fact that they're, all getting kind of intermixed, but the experience for the players is that it's one continuous experience in and out. Now, that's for these locations, again, that have a more limited set. We absolutely, with this system, can expand it to have locations with larger amounts of hangars, which would then allow us to do things like individually put down persistent hangars for players, and that would probably have to work in accordance with some kind of procedural system for placing out very large numbers of them. And we do, I know this comes up a lot. Players are very aware that we have the real estate, right? We have these huge planets. Like, what are we doing with all this space? Certainly, that's an opportunity. But for the first out, we're not going to have that, unique one-to-one hangar experience for each location. Instead, it's going to be working with the locations that we have now, but the system will support, as we make it, will support it in the future if we can work in accordance with the environment and level design teams and planet teams to facilitate the other part that would be required to have that kind of experience.
It's like with anything else in Star Citizen. You bring it to the point of realism, then you bring it back to the point of fun. And it's people who, if you physicalized every single hangar for every single player on the thing, somebody would have to park 13 kilometers out from Area 18 and have a 15-minute shuttle ride on the way in just to sell off their stuff and stuff like that. So we have to try to find that mix and match. But of course, as the game progresses and expands and stuff like that, we certainly do have the real estate to push farther and farther towards that realism. So like with anything, it'll continue to change and evolve. One more question about persistent hangars before we move on to shopping, trading, and selling and stuff. Will we be able to give other players access to drop cargo off in our hangars?
Yeah, so what we want to build is this concept of a freight elevator that is tied to whoever's using it. So when you use it, you see your local inventory stored at Area 18. When I use it, I see mine. So now what you get is the ability for you to bring your cargo out into my hangar, loaded on my ship, we can collectively work together as a group to then load the ship up with a series of goods, take it to another location, and then go and sell it. So we thought that was a really important factor to hit. Players want to play as a group, and putting the bill for 18 million UEC of goods on a ship is pretty daunting, right? So I think it's a huge win for players, just not just for working together as a multi-crew ship, but also contributing together from a financial point of view of sharing the cost for trading. So I think that's a big one.
Yeah, and I think Rob's bearing the lead here a little bit. If you were paying really close attention, you will have noticed that there was quite a dramatic change to the way that cargo works implied in that answer.
Yes.
Which is true. That we're not going to be magically spawning the cargo into your ship whenever you purchase cargo. Instead, it's going to be purchased into the hangar, and you'll be calling it from this freight elevator, and then manually moving it in and out of the kind of staging space into the ship, right? So this is part of I mentioned before that we're trying to localize the cargo more. This is part of that. We're getting rid of the magic. No more popping in and out of existence. Instead, they're physical things. They have to be moved. Of course, in the future, this is going to set us up for systems such as maybe drones or NPCs that you can hire to help you move these things. But for now, the idea is that you can move them yourself using the multi-tool, or you can bring in your friends. And so, this is one way in which people that are playing together will have an advantage over players that are just playing by themselves, because there's a certain amount of throughput that you'll be able to achieve with a larger crew, which will increase your financials.
That's right.
As opposed to as a single player. So it's kind of bringing that multiplayer, interactive, diegetic, physical gameplay into the cargo system.
You all laughed at the trolleys. You said the trolleys were silly. No. I'm just... Chad is already talking about an LTI forklift. I'll pass it on, folks, but who knows?
Word.
It's a big deal, though. And actually, we'll talk about it with selling here. So,
right. So we know that there's a big refactor to, or a big expansion rather, probably more accurate, to personal inventory and stuff coming, and along with that, loot generation, and along with that, an increased need to be able to sell and trade things off.
Absolutely.
So, talk to us about what our scope of that is. I know it's we're not, like with most things, we don't get to do everything we want to in the first drop.
Sure.
So why don't we just start there? What is next for selling, trading, shopping, asset managering?
Yeah. So the big one is we're trying to close off some of these game loops, right? We can go out, we can buy stuff, we can already sell commodities. So the next logical step was to be able to sell personal items or ship items back to shops. Just offloading, you bought 57 different ships, but you're just like, I just want to manage, a small set of power plants or whatever. That's a doable thing now. The goal is to start with those item types. Generally kind of limit them to the types of items that the store will have for sale, right? And then, go from there. The selling ships back to, a dealer is going to be a future tier, right? But the important part is, when we start going to loot generation, you're going to be able to collect a lot more stuff. May or may not be valuable, but it's another form of being able to be rewarded within the game to be able to go and sell it somewhere. So that's it closes several gameplay loops that are either coming online very soon or have been there for more than a bit. And it also gives us an opportunity to actually change our shopping flow in the kiosk. It's going to be in the kiosk, I should say. We're not going to do it at the physical item level, the mobiGlas level. We're going to try and phase out that mobiGlas UI at some point. But in converting it to building blocks, we can kind of re-envision that flow a little bit and try and make it a little more user friendly. Selling things in stacks, buying things, in larger volumes, and these things will all be. If you buy things, they're going to get sent to your local inventory. If you sell things, you can only sell things from your person, from your ships that are in that location, from your local storage that's in that location. So again, kind of leaning into that, items are localized within the world concept. It's going to fall in line with all that.
Some questions that we got from the chat and thread here. Want to trade, want to sell, want to buy, or
Keeping an eye on chat.
Mechanics and other MMOs. Related to all this, are we going to allow players to trade between themselves, like with an old style MMO, with or without? What is the app? The MoTrader app? Is that what it's called, MoTrader?
Yeah. Short answer, yes. Absolutely. Long answer, there's a series of Confluence pages with, to be clear, the current MoTrader app is not even tier 1, it's tier 0 of what we want to implement for that. With just plan after plan for how to expand upon that in gradated bits, to include player trading. There's talk even of having it be that there might be like shipping times on that you might hire a shipping company, then players could be that shipping company. So yes, absolutely, player trading of items between each other is planned to be supported. What exact form that ends up taking will be determined when we actually start to pedal to the metal on that next step.
Right. As we often state here, even with a wonderfully talented 700-person team around the world, we can only work on so many things at any one time, and not everything is in active development. So there are no updates to give. And I'm talking to you, Ben and Merchantman crowd. When it's in development, we'll tell you. Okay. Okay.
Right.
With the addition to being able to sell loot, are there plans to be able to resell a ship purchased with AUEC? It would be nice to be able to get rid of entries on ASOP for ships that maybe I don't care for after I have purchased them.
Sure. I mean, that's the plan, right? Is we want you to be able to sell your ships back if you don't. Basically anything in the game, if you don't want it anymore. We want to give the players a way to manage their inventory and cull it down to the things that they care about. I could even see, as we re-envision the ASOP, because the ASOP's going to need to change a little bit when we do some persistent hanger work. I could see maybe even just like, hey, hide this, and show, give your the ability to just hide certain entries, but they're still there, right? All the way to selling them to do other stuff. So it's, we want to eventually be able to take ships to junk sites and scrap them, and if you're a pirate, right? That's a big question in the game. It's like, how do I steal something and sell this big ship? Well, that's pretty. That's got to be a pretty complicated and dangerous thing, but that's stuff that CR's talked about in the past, right? So it's all in an effort to build up towards that level of ability to buy, sell, legal goods, stolen ships, legal ships, right? It's but
yeah. What I'll say is that Rob mentioned before that it's later. It's not gonna be the first iteration of selling, and that's because ships in the game are much more important. And for that reason, on the back end in the persistent layer, we're doing a lot more tracking. We use a lot more safety mechanisms regarding ships. Yeah. If you because of a bug or whatever, lose a weapon or an item or something like that, it's not that big of a deal. But losing a ship is, the amount of money that's going into these, the amount of time that's going into them is dramatic. So for that reason, we would have to account for that, for example, in LTP. And to date, we don't remove things from LTP. So that's as soon as you do something like that, you open yourself up to a set of bugs that you have to be very cautious about on the technical side. That you're very confident when you go out, you're not going to start just blasting people's very persistent data that they've worked hours and hours on. So we're being cautious on that part, and it's not that we don't know how to do it or don't want to do it. It's more that we want to be careful on that one for sure.
Let's see. Let's move into some more general term things for the team here. Will there be more reputation stuff for people on the wrong side of the law?
Absolutely, definitely, and that's not even. I'm not even saying that as like a far off, super distant thing. I literally spent yesterday setting up some data for it. When it comes out will be a question mark. Keep your eye on the roadmap, as Jared is so fond of saying.
Wrong mouse. Wrong house?
But there is planned support for pretty much any kind of gameplay in the game with reputation. The idea is that what you guys enjoy doing, we want to kind of support with that reward system. If that means hauling cargo from place to place, there will be reputation for it. If that means shooting people along a trade route as a pirate, there will be reputation for
Excuse me,
that.
chat. Sorry.
If
Excuse
that
me.
means stealing Big Benny's machines and going and building weird Neolithic monuments on a moon, for some reason, I'm sure narrative would have a problem with it, but there might be a reputation for that with some weird organization. So yes, there will be reputation for illegal things, for non-violent things, for all kinds of things.
Yeah, and we've talked about pyro quite a bit. This it's a big thing, right? And that's more of an outlaw system that's going to be coming online. So it's definitely going to be more relevant as we get into that. But as for now, we're focused on design-wise, we're building out the structure behind the scenes of how this is going to work in the game, and that's actually something we're going to talk about in a bit more detail with CitizenCon.
Yeah, so we're excited to show you some plans for that.
Adjacent to the cargo refactor, and we'll get back to that in a minute, will the cargo refactor include a meaningful overhaul of the economy itself for updated profit and investment ratios?
I think it has to. One of the things that we want to do is sell things kind of by the box, not like this per unit, because it does a lot of different things when we start to go down that road where it takes a certain amount of money to get into a box, a super valuable box that's this big. Whereas, I can get into like the really cheap stuff in larger volumes, maybe the really expensive stuff. I can only buy in smaller quantities, but I've got to get a certain amount of it in order to. It's like buying a lot size on the stock market, right? You got to buy it in 100-unit lots. Similar principle with what we want to do for the cargo, and it kind of ties to the whole sea and these large containers that we need to have to facilitate those. But it's I don't see how we can't do that. Like it's mandatory, 100%.
Let's move back to the cargo refactor a bit. When it comes to loading and unloading of cargo in space, docking arms for ships and in hangars, how do you plan to protect the player's ship from someone coming on board during a manual loading process and flying away or stowing away on board? Basically, how can players protect themselves during this vulnerable time?
I think the bigger question is, how are you going to protect your ship and your cargo that's being not loaded on your ship? Who are you going to work with to make that a safe thing? To me, that's where multiplayer gameplay just shines, right? And it's how, you want to hire some friends. So eventually, we want to have NPCs that you can hire. Maybe your reputation's high enough where turrets at the station will actually help protect you, right? So you're going to see reputation being tied into a lot more things as we move forward. And certainly, we've talked about hiring NPCs and working with other players forever, right? So this to me is ripe for that opportunity.
Yeah, and if I could add, I think a lot of people might hear that answer and be maybe a little bit upset. Keep in mind that you're not moving the cargo in and out on the landing pad, right? We're changing it to be in the hangar. Right. And to get into somebody else's hangar is going to be much more difficult. ATC is going to be monitoring ships, right, that are going in and out. Like if you just end up in somebody else's hangar, bad things could happen. If you want to physically walk in there, you're going to have to sneak in along with them. You can't just decide via some hangar elevator that you want to go to somebody else's. You would have to get into the physical hangar.
That's good. I like that.
And then get all the way.
But that's going to be a problem if people can just do that.
So it's just a lot less likely that this is going to happen. And so for the first outing, it's probably going to be a little bit more manual process in collaboration with ATC. And my guess is that when we go live, there is going to be a certain amount of it, but it's not going to be like this rampant problem. And then even if it does end up being like that, we can always do things like introduce maybe like a security system, and maybe that's something you have to opt into. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the gameplay turns out. We'll see what the feedback is. But yeah, so it's a little bit safer than I think maybe Rob,
Well, and I think one thing that we've kind of blurred the line between a little bit here is that, you know, the cargo refactor is physicalizing cargo. It's not going to change the shopping flow for that particular feature. Persistent hangers is where cargo gameplay flow is going to be the big thing that changes that. So when it comes to shops they'll still populate it, you know, while your ship's despawned, you know, behind the scenes there. It just means that as a player, once it gets spawned on the landing pad, you can walk into the ship and take it out if you can get in there. It's physicalized at that point. So the persistent hanger work is what's really going to drive this entire gameplay flow of the manual loading and working with friends and collaborating on that level. And then you will be much safer behind the doors of your hangar. So making things harder to do is I kind of mentioned, like stealing ships, like that should be really hard. Like it should be really hard to get into somebody's hangar. Like maybe you gotta kind of sneak on their ship and then, you know, be a stowaway all the way back to get inside their hangar. And now you can wreak havoc. But it takes an effort, and it's you know, I'm sure players are going to do it. I guarantee it. They're going to find a way. But
you know what they need, right? It's just an idea I had just now. What they need is an alert system, especially on ships that are, you know, like large, like the well, like the Mercury Star Runner, or the oh man, what was the one that was just on the commercial? Oh, the Constellation. Constellation. You know, there should be a little indicator in the cockpit saying doot doot doot, this door just opened. You know, heck, they had it on Star Trek. Somebody's opening the shuttlecraft bay doors. In one of my favorite episodes, the Doomsday Machine. Got a little alert. Doot, doot, doot. Hey, somebody's opening a door. You know, somebody opens one of the hidden cargo hatches on the Mercury Star Runner. You know, the one that where you come into the into the up the ramp and you go to the right and you open that quote unquote secret door, and it leads to that passage that starts going underneath the main deck. There should be a little alert that boop boop, a light that comes on, you know, and you got to be diligent and look at that light. Well, obviously you have to be in the cockpit or maybe in your Moby glass, you know, doot, doot, somebody just opened that door, you know. We're gonna need help with that. Now, if it turns out to be a problem where people are doing this left and right, then yeah, there needs to be some kind of issue. There needs to be some kind of system that will alert you. Somebody opened this door. Somebody's coming up the elevator or whatever. You know, the 890 jump. You know, oh, somebody's using the elevator. But if it's not going to be a big deal, like if it's like, you know, like these guys say, if it's going to be in a hangar, I think you'll be all right. But if you're out in the wild, I think you just have to fall back to your regular diligence and make sure that doors aren't open and people aren't around and whatnot. We'll see as the game starts to progress and more people are playing. It's probably not going to be as big a deal if you're out in the wild. You know, you got to land someplace where that's going to be crowded to have that being. And at that point, your senses are so heightened, you're going to be careful anyway. So, but it sounds like it's going to be really difficult to sneak on somebody's ship in a hangar, and there's going to be so much real estate to land on and to explore that unless you're landing purposely in a crowded town, outpost, or whatever, out in the wild, it really shouldn't be a problem. But if it does turn out to be a problem, yeah, maybe a little bit of indicator or some kind of alert says, hey, somebody just opened.
We've talked a lot today about the cargo refactor and how it links up with the persistent hangars and stuff like this. Where do cargo decks come into this equation? You know, we released them a couple patches ago. They famously looked great, but were less filling as far as the gameplay content. How do those work into the new picture?
So there are hangars at those stations, right? Cargo decks are places where you make your purchases. We originally intended that to be where you can kind of drive renting space. We've actually since talked about some additional possibilities of how we're going to manage your overage, and is it capped? Is it just per unit, like you pay for the storage that you request for? Maybe that gets way more expensive the more you get closer to certain levels that small stations may not have a lot of space, and once you get up to like 1,000 SCU, like, man, that gets really expensive, and it's just not worth it to store that much stuff there. So I'd see it maybe morphs a little bit over time here, just as far as the original intent. Obviously, I think one of the big points was that they're not really connected to the outside, so people can't really fly their ships in and load it up and go out. But that's where persistent hangars, even if you don't own one there, you can request a land one, pay for it, like 500 UEC to go land, and then you go in, do your shopping, load it on your ship, and then go, and then that hangar disappears from your persistence, right? So again, it's realizing the gameplay over time. This is a huge feature. We've built so much in the game already, and we've got to go back and make sure that what we're building still works within the context of everything that we've got. And so I'd expect there'd be things kind of like that may need to get tweaked a little bit. We may be able to use it right out the gate.
And then does this cargo refactor, does it include things like the store boxes for the Aurora and the Mustang at all?
Are you talking about the boxes on the outside?
Yeah.
Yes. So because they're items, it's like a weapon. It's just attaching to the outside of the ship. So it will absolutely facilitate that.
10,000 Aurora owners just cheered in unison.
Now loading that's going to be interesting, right? So you got to get your tractor be, so that's a different problem. But
let's see how much time we got. All right. With persistent hangars, will the need to equip ships only with the inventory you have in the hangar or at your current location be implemented at the same time?
That's actually going to be coming out with this new inventory change that we're doing. So when the asset manager drops, the personal inventory system is changing, right? The PMA will be removed in lieu of the new personal inner thought inventory that you probably see in Rich Tire and company talk about quite a bit. The VMA will also fall in line with that. So the VMA will still exist, but it'll be altered to only show the things that you have at that location or have purchased at that location. So you'll see the equipment from all of your other ships that, obviously everything's like item port size restricted and stuff like that. But so it'll be localized there.
With things like persistent hangars, the physicalized inventory, asset manager, all that stuff that we're talking about that's coming, how does prison factor into that and being an escapee? That's the question. It's how does that factor in?
I guess in what way? Like getting back to your
at what point do you get all of your stuff back? Because when you show up in prison, everything famously disappears.
Sure. Well, I think it works even better because we've had to actually hack the inventory to work around that fact, to hide all of these other things that was previously in a global inventory. So you just won't have it, right? Like your stuff will just not be at that location. So of course you can't access it. So when you get back to places where you can, it'll be there.
Yeah, and I think, there's still some fine details to work exactly out, but probably, one way that it could work is if you were at a location where you got captured, we just store it there. If you're somewhere where there's not really reasonably anything close that you could identify as the location where your stuff is, we probably just stuff it in your home location. But as I said, there's some fine details exactly to sort. And then, the immediate next question I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking about, like, how do I know where it ended up, right? And the answer to that is, well, that's why we have the Asset Manager app, which is to help you understand where your things are in the world.
So yeah, we haven't really talked about. We will talk about this in more detail as CitizenCon, but think of Asset Manager as the global view, and your personal inventory and persistent hangars, your ships, like these are all your local places. So when you want to know what's on the other side of the system, that'll be the Asset Manager, or Knickknacks is the actual name of it.
Interesting, interesting.
Again, I know we're talking about the asset manager at Citizen Gun, so we don't want to go too far into it. But will it allow for like text-based global search of inventories? It's
Chad, you want to?
Yeah, so what it will allow is text-based filtering of local results at first, but not global text search. And the reason for this is because it's actually much more difficult to implement than you might just naively think. You have to consider how you're extracting that data out of the backend. The way that we're implementing the new entity graph system is to optimize it for the kinds of queries that gameplay does most often. And that usually means hierarchical queries. And for this reason, the way that the data is laid out in the database is not conducive to text-based search. Instead, we would have to have a different kind of caching layer in order to facilitate this, which is doable. It's not that it's not possible. It's just that that's not the work that's currently being done. We're very focused on server meshing, entity graph, persistence, streaming, all that stuff. So the people that we would need to work with in order to support that are tied up with some very important things right now, and it won't be in the global search won't be out in the first outing, but it is something that we've definitely talked about, and we have some ideas about how to.
And on that note, we actually found that we put in an item type, subtype, so that the categories and subcategories that you would see like in the shop kiosk. So you got your categories across the top, like clothing, and then pants, shirts, whatever. We're giving that level of filtering where you can set up your criteria, say filter, and then only the stuff in that location that matches that criteria will show up. So it's a little more efficient way to go. Where's my guns? Where's my clothes? Where's my whatever? But the text search, because we're also limited on how many things we can put or bring into the query results each time, just because it'll just take longer and longer for things to load. So we felt it was better to give you faster results than to create this huge list, wait for it to load, for 15 minutes, right, and then allow you to interact with it. So we've actually, I think we've actually turned the text-based filtering off right now, because the type, subtype, or the category stuff was so much more efficient. We're just like, let's nix that and give them a little more space to show items.
So it's not out of the question. It's just not.
No. It was one of the first things I wanted. I'm like, I want to type, much like we have in the friends list in the front end, right, where you can start typing somebody's name and see them, pop up in the list. Like, that's exactly what I want as a player. And I want to be able to type keywords. I want to be able to type, like sniper or bullet or whatever. That's as a game that manages so much stuff, we have to have those quick and easy ways to not just figure out what it is, but where it is and what I need to do to go and get it, how much of it I got, right? What quality, what shape is it in? There's a bunch of stuff that will be coming into play much more as we move forward.
You can send your hate mail to me. I had to break bad news to Rob.
Chat.
I tried so hard.
He wasn't calling you naive. He was just calling Director Gunner. That was directed specifically to Director Gunner.
Yeah.
Everybody else is fine. He just meant Director Gunner. I don't know why I'm picking on Director Gunner. Will reputation affect selling price or taxes on trading or selling loot at some point in the future?
Absolutely. That is one of the core. So there's a portion of reputation that is like one of our very public, very core plans of it is perks. You've got a very small amount of that you saw with the bounty hunter reputations, where you get a little bit more mission rewards as you rank up with certain organizations. This would fold under the expansion of that into much more varietous and much more interesting perks. That's actually one of the simpler ones, frankly. It might be a specific shop if it's like a little mom and pop store that you've gotten a really good reputation with that specific person, or it might be company wide. If there's like Garrity Defense, then you can get all of those various stores. But yes, absolutely, when you're selling, and taxes and all of that could be affected by reputation in certain areas.
Yeah, buying and selling. We talked about hiding things behind reputation. So you got to be X reputation. You got to be a private with us in order to buy our weapons. we also wanted to, it ties into subscriber flair as well, right? Like we've always talked about wanting to put a subscriber shop in there. So guess what? Subscriber is just a reputation that is a boolean on or off,
And that is kind of like one of the core when we say like, oh, this thing will give you X item, it generally will more give you access to X item.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's why when you fall below that rank, we aren't going to take that out of your inventory, because that's just rude, frankly. It's that item might decay to a point where it is broken or needs to be repaired or something. You won't be able to get it back until you're back in working order, until you are above certain reputations, or get a replacement until you're above that.
Yeah. So, and as we move forward with the game, obviously wear and tear is going to become much bigger of an influence over your gameplay. Like right now, we do a lot of things with ships where we basically just give you all brand new, stuff when you claim insurance. But eventually, the intent is that like your parts are wearing out. So if you lose your rep to be able to buy, have access to it, you may not have to, or you may not be able to get it repaired by them, or you may not be able to get another one. So I can't express how fundamental reputation is to our progression system enough. It is huge, and it's going to be tied into as many things that make sense, but it's going to be in most of the stuff that we work on. It's going to be a factor.
And as a follow-up to that subscriber flare thing, we're talking about many subscriber flares get lost throughout the course of adventuring in the Pristine universe. We're talking about an easy place for people to go back and reclaim the things that they have already.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point. Typically with the players are just doing like character resets and getting their stuff back, right? Reclaiming it, like we have talked about, if you lost it, maybe at some point somebody could find it, right, and then it gets returned to your home location where you can go and pick it up. There is talks about how we can do that for some of those key items, like the subscriber things, or like the things that you paid real money for, or the special stuff, right? Your special mount or etc. So to speak. But yeah, it's in the plan. I don't know when that's scheduled, or it's an evolution of the shopping experience for sure. And I know next year is going to be much more economy focused as we kind of get the quantum tooling integrated into the game more and more. So that's what I would like to see that happen, but it's all going to come down to priorities.
Yeah,
I also should clarify, for Zenithreat, we are going to directly reward you some stuff at certain reputations after the event is done. But that is something that we do not plan to do long term. That's a kind of a one-off.
So that's a good point. Like right now, we're kind of doing it in a undesirable way, where we're going through the analytics data and going, who's actually completed this, and then attributing those things to the accounts. These are things that we want people to be able to, one, acknowledge, go, yep, cool, I'm going to this place and I get it, and I did it, and I know that I did it. Whereas right now the back end just goes, yep, you got it, and there's not a whole lot of messaging. You don't really, once the inventory is localized, you're like, where do I go get it? Well, we've got plans for that as well, but so hopefully it'll become more fluid and more tangible in-game experiences with the reward stuff that they're doing now.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, that's it. It's the end of our show.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. All that's left is for Chad to show us what that thing in the background is and how it works.
It's a power cage just for weightlifting.
You gonna show us, or?
He doesn't know how it works, so.
All right, that's it.
Oh, man. Oh.
Why don't you come over and discuss that?
Cool.
Thanks for spending your time at the end of our week here on Star Citizen Live.
Oh my God.
That was Chad. That was Rob. That was. Can I point in the corner? There we go. That was Ben. We're gonna throw a raid. I think we're gonna throw a raid.
I was gonna raid somebody.
So there is a streamer
Was
going
recorded earlier today as obviously.
Nyashi. I don't know anything about this person. We're literally just picking a person and we're gonna surprise them. So when you head over there, tell them Chad doesn't really work out. And we'll see you next week, everybody.
Oh my
I'm not saying
goodness.
he doesn't. I'm just saying I've never seen him use it. That's all.
Oh,
I've never seen him use it.
I've not. You know,
It's back there.
oh,
It's-
they're just destroying that
he's
poor
swole,
guy.
Dude, if you checked him like
He's
swole.
before the camera, like he's like, oh.
yeah, dude, those legs, they're like powerlifter legs, man. He's got like robot. We are off the air, right?
No.
Yeah, sure.
No, they were not. All right, there we go. Well, that was good. That was good. That was pretty good info there. I'm glad we checked that out. How do I get? You know, I kind of want to just end, because by the time we get into the game and I'm meeting a friend for breakfast, so I'm gonna have to stream sometime in the afternoon, evening tomorrow, because that's my normal day, Wednesdays and Saturdays. I decided to do it tonight because usually I'm playing a online game with some friends, but a couple of guys couldn't make it tonight, so tonight was kind of quote unquote free. So I decided to go ahead and just do a quick stream. Yeah, I guess I'm not really in the mood to start up the game. I probably should, but I also kind of want to get some exercise and go outside for a walk. So yeah, let's just do that. Sorry guys, I'm not gonna start the game up. I updated it, so I'm gonna play it tomorrow. Maybe I'll play it tomorrow morning, and then stream it later after I get back from breakfast with my friend who called. So I'm looking forward to that. It's very rare that friends call me and say, "Hey, let's get together," especially if they're female. I got really disappointed with one female who wanted to get together for lunch after I got back from my vacation. I had 3 days off. I said, "Hey, I'm back. When are you free?" And ghosted. Never heard from her. Nothing. So I think she's the type that says a lot but doesn't really mean it. And I was really disappointed. But then all of a sudden, another female friend says, "Hey, what's going on? Let's get together. Go for breakfast." Okay, boom, done within a couple of minutes. So I give people credit, you know, because I have a lot of trouble in that respect. Got a lot of people who just, "Oh yeah, let's get together," and then they don't really mean it. And it hurts. So I'm very glad that this other person came through and just, "Hey, get together tomorrow." So, you know, we're gonna go hang out. So of course I'm gonna do that. But I don't know how long we're gonna hang out, but some point tomorrow I'm going to stream. And plus I have to get downstairs because I have stuff sitting out. I will need to put it in the fridge. And I'm gonna go for a little walk, play a little Pokemon. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna call it. I turn my joysticks off. And I'm gonna turn my thing off here. And turn off Track IR. I think that was good. I think I just wanted to share that with you guys, and check out the Star Citizen Live. I didn't get a chance to see it today because I was working and I had a bunch of stuff going on. And I couldn't watch it, and I don't like to watch it live anyway, because when I try to watch something live at work, I could be sitting there in it for an hour just doing my stuff in my office all by myself. Nobody will disturb me for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. As soon as I try. She's ending. Let me give her a salute. She's ending at the same time. But as soon as I try to watch something that's live, especially anything to do with Star Citizen, "Oh, I need your help." Well, actually, my door is open, so nobody has to really. "Oh, well, I think there's something going on. Oh, you know, this is, you know, so." You know, I'm just like, okay. so I just don't end up doing live, watching anything live at work. So I just end up waiting until I get home, and then just watching the recording later. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. We're gonna be back again tomorrow afternoon, evening. We're gonna get into live, and we're gonna fly around. Gonna do some box missions. We're gonna try to get ourselves into some trouble. The live server, 3.14 is up and live. We got to do it. It's awesome. Well, I don't know if it's awesome. It should be good. But I'm just looking forward to getting into it. So join me again tomorrow, afternoon, evening, Central Time, and we will go ahead and get ourselves into some trouble. In Star Citizen. So that's it. I gotta go outside and go for a little walk and put my stuff away, and I'm gonna go downstairs and chill. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your eyeballs. Thank you for your lurks. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And hey, we'll be back tomorrow. All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon.